I'm muted. I'm so sorry. But that's the new intro. That's the new intro we're gonna be doing. Obviously, this is Mike Hughes from Skytown, everything Chicago Sky related podcast. Um, we're gonna be talking about the May 24th game. We're gonna be talking about a lot of things that are going on in the world right now. Um, and I'm excited about it. I'm excited to talk about the game. But before we get into the game, I want to give my thoughts and prayers for everybody in Texas, everybody in Buffalo, everybody around the world right now. We're going to keep it brief because it's kind of just something that's really hard to talk about. I didn't think it was going to be this hard to talk about it, but it's definitely going to be something to where we need to really have a serious conversation at some point. And I think, I'm super excited about it. I'm super excited um to talk about basketball and to talk about everything else, but today's just one of those days you don't talk about basketball as much. I feel like there's a lot that needs to be said, and there's not a lot of things that are going to be done to change the world. I know everybody has their political beliefs, um whether that be, the Second Amendment, or a bunch of other things. But when a second grade classroom is getting targeted with assault rifles, I feel like that's where there needs to be a conversation. And this happened when I was 12 years old, at Sandy Hook. And I remember it just like yesterday because Sandy Hook was like one of the biggest like things that had happened in an actual school since like Columbine and just a bunch of other stuff like that. And every time they say it's never going to happen again, we're going to be better, we're going to fix this, and then it literally happens immediately after. And it's just a shame, man. It's just a shame that old white men in the Senate and in the House of Representatives and everywhere else, they're so worried about, you know, abortion and what women are doing with their bodies, but they don't care about the people who are actually alive. You know what I mean? Like they're so worried about the people who haven't been born yet. They're talking about pro-life and all this other stuff. And that's important stuff. Don't get it twisted. But you don't even take care of the people who are living and breathing right now. The second grade kids who are actually here and present are no longer, because an 18-year-old kid who can't legally drink a Bud Light but can go buy an AR-15, no problem. Um, there's a lot that's impacted in that, and it's terrifying. Someone who, I have younger cousins, I have a niece, and to think things like this happens, not even just in a mass shooting type atmosphere, but in the city in general, in Chicago, in Memphis, Detroit, New York, Compton, Crenshaw, places like that, it is a regular basis where kids are being gunned down. And it may not be a mass shooting, it may not be a catastrophic event, but it happens every day, and we don't talk about it enough. And we can go on a whole different wave and talk about all of that another time, because we could do this all day. But James Wade did make some comments after the game, that I do think everybody should hear because I loved what he said. So this is what James Wade's comments were after the game in the press conference.
We're trying to celebrate like something that we've accomplished, and then real life kind of gets into it. And it was a moment. I appreciated Kathy mentioning it and us having a moment of silence for it. Uh, but it's just a tough situation. There's a lot of stuff that's bigger than basketball, and they were 2 days away from going on vacation, so I'm sure like parents were planning on trips, and you have to, um, you know, uh, it's just tough. It's tough. You have a second and third and fourth graders, and children are so innocent, and they're just learning um, life, and they don't deserve to be in situations where you don't get a chance to see tomorrow. So, yeah.
And it just reflects, it is it is exactly that, that kids are getting dropped off at school, and it's these conversations of, that's the last time you're ever going to see them. And, you know, we're not going to get too deep into it just because, we're going to obviously talk about it more as the week goes on. Um, but I just don't see a change happening. And that's the saddest part of all of it is, there's so much money involved in these guns, and the politicians within those guns that get paid for their campaigns and so much more, um, that all of them are too afraid to even take a stance on wanting change. And it all starts, not only with us, but with our leaders. 90% of Americans believe that, by a poll that was taken, 90% of Americans believe there needs to be stricter gun laws. Maybe not the Second Amendment being taken away, but just stricter gun laws. And they completely ignore that. Um, and it's horrific to even see things like that happening every single day. So my thoughts and prayers are with everybody in Buffalo, everybody in Texas, everybody all the way from Sandy Hook all the way on, forever and always. You know what I mean? Like, it's a horrific event that I couldn't even wrap my mind around. But with that being said, we're definitely going to get into it again. My guy Freddie in the comments did not get to see the beginning of this episode. Like I said, we're going to be talking about it a lot more today as well, because Brittney Griner's wife did come out with some comments in an interview, that are very important, and I'm very excited to just continue to make her presence felt and known. This is going to be the intro to every single episode until Brittney Griner is out of prison, in Russia. And it's very unfortunate. It's something that I can't believe is still going on. They want to trade a big time criminal from Russia who we have captive in America. They want him for Brittney Griner, which is like, it's basically saying we're keeping her because we're not giving him up. You know what I mean? Like, you just can't do that. As much as I would want to, you can't, because you can't let someone like that out. And it's a conversation to where, Brittney Griner's wife has even gone out publicly now and said that, she wants Brittney to come home, and she feels like they're not doing enough to get her home. She feels like Joe Biden's not doing enough to get her home. They're saying she's the top priority, but they don't feel like she's the top priority. And I completely understand where they're coming from, because it's a lot of talk, but it's also this conversation of, let's be completely honest here. Let's be completely real, and let's understand that, Russia is a very different situation. Some people compare it to what happened with LiAngelo Ball back in 2016, 2017, when he stole Gucci sunglasses or whatever the circumstances were. And Donald Trump was able to get him home from China very quickly. At least that's what he states. But I don't know how much involvement he truly had in it. But it really does come down to the fact that it's two very different situations because of the war in Ukraine. Which is, we're talking a lot of politics today. I'm sorry for that if that's not what you're into, but sometimes, the real world's real, man. And, sometimes you got to act on it instead of talk about it. So it's something to where I feel like this would have never even happened to Brittney Griner, if what was taking place in Ukraine didn't take place. It's definitely a situation with the sanctions and everything else, and where the U.S. stands in the situation. We're standing with Ukraine, which I have no problem with. I love that we're standing with Ukraine, but it definitely does impact what happened to Brittney. Brittney's been playing in Russia for years, and there's so many different conversations we can go about this, to why she's even playing in Russia in the first place, is because they don't get equal pay or even close to enough pay to be able to live off of. Brittney Griner's wife actually went off in an interview and stated that Brittney Griner has had one Thanksgiving in America in the last 10 plus years. And that's because she's always overseas playing basketball, because she lives paycheck to paycheck off of that. I mean, she doesn't make enough to sustain, financial security. And that's the reality of the situation. She's one of the best in the league, I mean, at what she does. And obviously, there's the Candace Parkers and the Diana Taurasi's who make good money. But it's still nothing close to what LeBron James or even Andrew Wiggins is making right now, which is crazy. Michael Porter Jr., guys like that who are making so much money. And it's that conversation of like, well, why can't they get the same? And I know it's so different. There's so much revenue that goes into it, and there's so much change that needs to be made. And a lot of it starts with the fan base. A lot of the fans need to start showing up more. A lot of people need to start watching more. And it definitely makes sense. But it's definitely something to where, BG, I don't give a shit about basketball, honestly. I just hope mentally and physically she's okay, and that when she comes back, whether she wants to play again or not, which I know BG fairly well at this point, watching her entire career, and I know she's going to want to play when she comes back. That's just who she is. But it's what version of BG are you going to get back? And her wife even went on record and said that. Who am I going to get when she comes back? Who is she now? Because you don't know how they've treated her. You don't know what that's done to her mental. And the fact that no one's talking about this enough is insane to me. And that ties back into our earlier conversation about what happened in Texas. We'll talk about it for a week because it's what's hot, it's what's in, it's what's going to trend and get you clicks for all these media pages. And then they forget about it and they roll over, and the government allows it to go away. As long as we stop talking about it publicly, it's going to go away. And that's the unfortunate circumstances. We need to continue to just drive this down everybody's throat and allow everybody to know that we know that she's still out there and we want her back. And we know that these tragic events and these mass shootings are still happening, and there needs to be a change, and it's not happening, and that starts with the people who are in charge. And I don't know what to do. There's so many different conversations that we could go about this, but we do not have enough time, and it's unfortunate. We will have an episode dedicated to stuff like that, where we can just air it out and just have these conversations, but that is not here. But back to the game itself, yesterday, representing the ASAP network, I was at the game, as a part of Chicago Sky Media. And despite the tragic events and the amazing moment of silence that happened at the game before the banner ceremony, which was amazing, to see everybody come together the way they did. The banner ceremony was great. I mean, it was so much fun. The ring ceremony was dope. The bean is on the ring. It's just so dope. The skyline. James Wade had a big part of creating that as well, which was super dope. But it was so much fun, man. It was so much fun. I got to hang out with Ka and a bunch of other individuals before the game. Shout out quarterback Ryan Helinski of the Northwestern Huskies. I always love seeing him. That's my guy. He's also a part of media there. That's my boy over there. So, we had a great time all around. And then we got a couple interviews with Allie Quigley and Courtney Vandersloot that we're going to be able to show you guys today. I'm super excited about. But overall, the game, we're going to get into it. I mean, we played the Indiana Fever, who are currently 2-7. It's not their greatest start to the season, but they have a lot of young talent. I feel like in a couple years to a few years from now, they're going to have a really good squad built around them. The Mitchells did pretty solid. Tiffany Mitchell obviously didn't have the greatest of nights. She played 3 minutes or 13 minutes, pardon me. 6 points, and it's one of those situations where I feel like her game is evolving and she's going to continue to grow. But Kelsey Mitchell, I mean, what a stud! 25 points. I mean, in a game. I mean, it's just outstanding to see her continue to develop and continue to do her thing. She had two rebounds, 2 assists, and 25 points. It's a great game from her. Danielle Robinson really did her thing as well from a rebounding perspective. Victoria Vivian, 17 points. You have Emily, who had 11. I mean, Queen, who had 10. They overall, they have a very solid roster from top to bottom. You also have Henderson, who had or not, is this Henderson? I'm looking at the stats right now. Yeah, Henderson had 13 points. A lot of people on this team are really coming together. And I feel like they're a few pieces away, a few big free agency pieces away. I feel like as they continue to draft well, they're going to be solid. But one of the biggest things right now that I'm really noticing and really just trying to wrap my mind around is, are these individuals going to stay in Indiana longevity wise? Because everybody's going to be on these contracts for about 2 years, majority. And are they willing to buy in and stay in Indiana is the real question. I think, a game like this, 95-90, I mean, it was a close game. The Chicago Sky did not play great in the first quarter. Defense was sloppy. I felt like, everybody was getting in a little bit of foul trouble. Rebecca Gardner, I love her. She is amazing, and I can't wait to continue to see her develop into the WNBA. She's played the majority of her career overseas, and I feel like there's a lot of physicality that comes with playing overseas. So, she had 5 fouls in this game. She almost fouled out. It's one of those situations to where, you're really just trying to get your feet under you and just trying to get used to these calls that refs are giving you. The refs were a little weird about a bunch of calls. They were just being a little soft, in my opinion. But we're gonna see, what happens throughout the entire year. Obviously, there's a target on our back, being the defending champs. But Candace Parker, I mean, what an amazing night from Candace Parker. She had 16 points, 7 assists, and 6 rebounds. I mean, overall, Candace just had one hell of a game. Kalia Copper had 12 points. Emma Mieseman had 9. Obviously, Allie Quigley had 12. You have Courtney Vandersloot had 14. Dana Evans had 10. You had Stevens, who had 15. I mean, I believe she had like 9 points, 12 points at half, something like that. And then you have Rebecca Gardner had 5, and Hebert had 2. So it all around, you have 6 players with double-digit points. I mean, that's exactly what this team can be. And Lee did not play. She was DMP coach's decision. Obviously, she just got activated, so they're going to ease her way in here. I'm really excited to continue to see her play. They got a couple cool stories about her giving the entire team gifts. They're like these little night lights. That's super dope that, her coming from where she's from, just being as generous as she is. That's awesome. But it comes down to it, to where to be able to see these individuals just starting to build chemistry and just overall have this idea of, we know we can run it back, and we know we can be 10 times better than we were even last year. We're in a better place. You bring in Rebecca. Obviously, you bring in Emma, and you bring in Lee, and you bring in others. You bring back Allie and Courtney, and then, Dana's continuing to get more playing time, and that's a big part of everything. And I just feel like Kalia Copper is even feeling like, this is my team now. Candace Parker, it's also her team. Don't get it twisted. It's Allie's, it's Courtney's, it's everybody's. But obviously, Kalia is going to be the face of this franchise along with Dana, hopefully. So, you really look at that. You really look at those understandings that this team is just 10 times more confident and honestly a little bit more well-rounded when it comes to a bench unit. So I'm super excited about that as well. It's just an overall great team. But we have this interview right here with Allie Quigley. During the ring ceremony, obviously people say things just to hype up the crowd, but I truly believe James Wade meant it when he said it. They said they were going to run it back, and I interviewed Allie after the game in the press conference, and asked her kind of just to elaborate a little bit on that, and she had this to say about it. Hey, Allie. So in the beginning of the banner ceremony, James talked about running it back and how that was a big part of the season. Is that the standard right now? Is not only getting back to the finals and winning another championship, or is the season a disappointment if you don't?
I think our standard is just getting better every day. I don't think we're thinking about running it back or the end. We're just kind of thinking about the process, and because we know every season is different. Just because you do well or whatever you do the previous year doesn't mean it's going to happen again. So we're just trying to treat this season like a new season and just get better every day.
That's one of the things right there, though. I just feel like, when you look at this season as a whole, adding more than you subtracted, it's huge. Obviously, we lost Stephanie Dolson. Obviously, we lost Diamond DeShields and a couple others. But to have this whole nucleus back and to bring in Emma and to just build this chemistry that kind of Courtney was talking about later on, in a different interview, she's kind of having this conversation of, we just need to build this chemistry. And once we have the chemistry, that this team is going to be stacked. They are going to be solid. But overall, it was a great game. I had a lot of fun. Thank you to the Chicago Sky for having us out there representing the ASAP network. Hopefully we're going to be there for every game possible at home this year. Maybe even travel around, see what we can do. Me and Jay Ness might team up in Phoenix. If Jay, you're listening, baby, I'm definitely down to see some Diana Taurasi and hopefully Brittany Griner at some point. So it's definitely just a complete and utter honor to be there. We're sitting 4-2 right now. Obviously, I feel like we should be 5-1 around there, but we weren't fully healthy. We didn't have Allie, we didn't have Kalia, we didn't have Lee. So it is really unfortunate that we weren't healthy to start off the season, because I easily could see us being 6-0 right now. But I mean, it just was a true honor to even be in that presence and to be able to be in this press box, and it was just a lot of fun, and it was just real, man. I felt like I was at home. So it was definitely dope. It was an amazing experience. And I can't wait to continue to do more with you guys. But we're going to have more interviews next episode from Emma Mieseman, Courtney Vandersloot, and so many others. Next game is Saturday, so definitely be ready for that. We're going to have a show tomorrow. Hopefully in the afternoon, we're going to be doing a practice shoot around. So I'm going to have a couple interviews for you guys there. We're going to do it after Probably be coming up around 7 p.m., 8 p.m. Central Time. I don't know what that is. But with that being said, it's definitely one of those things to where, we're just going to be there as much as we can. We're going to get as much media coverage. We're going to bring you guys everything Chicago Sky news up to date, keep you guys in the loop about everything. But with that being said, this is another episode of Skytown. I know it wasn't, as lighthearted and as fun as it usually is. But sometimes you just got to be real about everything that's going on in the world right now. So with that being said, this is Mike Hughes from Mike on the Mic from the ASAP Network. This is Chicago Sky's very own Skytown. Thank you guys for listening. Once again, free Brittany Griner. I hope all of you guys have an amazing rest of your day.